Hello everyone. In today's episode, we will finish the layout for the housing complex, move all of the power cables going into the town underground, and most importantly, create a general layout for the rail network. The vast majority of the time in this episode will be dedicated to this last endeavor. Near the end I will realize that I completely forgot to fill in the newly freed up area in the town, so if you want to see the new kindergarten and sports center, you'll have to wait a little bit. With our new power plant working hard at making us some money, we can start thinking about doing other things. First of all, I think the new hospital is great, but it uses up way too many of our workers. Our population is fairly healthy at 90%, so I think 20 doctors and other staff will be enough for the foreseeable future. And just to double check for my own sanity's sake, we did in fact manage to supply food to our citizens just fine. Despite the food stockpiles emptying rather quickly with just 4 microbuses ferrying workers, the produced amount was still enough to satisfy domestic consumption. That extra 4 I added near the end of the last episode can stay though. They will be useful during the winter, and it doesn't hurt to have a bit of an extra production for exports. And now, let's move the power cables underground. The ones in the more industrial parts of our republic can stay on power poles, but they are getting a bit crowded around the town. We just have to keep in mind that underground cables have a drastically reduced throughput, so instead of the original 2.35 megawatts we are accustomed to, we will need to start adding more substations once we get close to 1.45 megawatts of power usage. Because of that, we need a third substation. The current ones are close to that limit already. If we stuck to the above ground cables, they'd be okay for a while, but since we are moving them below ground, we need another one. Just to make our lives a bit easier, I'll move the farm's power connection so it faces the border outpost. That will make it easier to route the town's own cables, since they will be facing more or less the right way. And we can sever connection to the town. It is summertime, so heating shouldn't be a problem, and everything else can function more or less without power, until everything gets reconnected. I could feasibly do it one by one, but I really just wanted to get it over with, and done it all together. Now comes the fun part. Planning the cable layout, in a nice, organized manner. Since we have 4 outlets, but only 3 substations, one of the connections will be left half built. The section that bunches the wires together can run parallel to the heating pipes, and only branch off into separate lines at the town border. It's just a matter of adjusting the height of the wires by pressing Q or E, and they will connect up nice and easy. That takes care of the transformer side. That turned out way better than I hoped. Now, let's deal with the substations. Again, we need to go under the heating pipes at a couple places, but pressing Q to go deeper will deal with any issues. Could be better, but it will do. The whole reason for it was to hide them underground, and for that purpose, it's doing an amazing job. They are already assigned to the construction offices, and the materials are on their way. Won't be long, and people will have power again soon. Taking a quick look, and I'm happy to see harvesters hard at work at the farm. I will also take the first step towards paving the streets in town. I will completely forget about it for the rest of this episode, but it's a start. Nope, not that part. We need access to the substation. And now, the main focus of the episode. The beginnings of our rail network. It was a bit hard to decide where to place the construction office. I completely neglected to plan for it. Here I would block the warehouse, and the resulting junction would be kind of awkward. But making it the endpoint of this side street, with the asphalt and concrete plants, that might work. There is plenty of room to the south, so we can comfortably plan a junction that will lead into the rest of the network. And finally, we can start planning the rough layout for the rail network. We will need a way to the farm, so we can move the fresh food to where it's needed. That's a bit of a steep incline, and any railway engineer proposing such a track would be fired immediately for incompetence. But this isn't real life, so I guess it will do. I'm trying hard to follow the elevation contour lines, only changing height over relatively long distances. I'm really glad the devs added the option to change to curve radius with the mouse wheel in one of the earlier updates. It would be a nightmare to make smooth turns with the first iteration of the track laying system. I'm taking rough measurements here. The maximum length of a normal train is around 150 meters. Long ones can go up to 450, but I kind of doubt I'll bother with those. I just need to know how long I should make the station's parking track. But it's too early for signaling anyways, so I'll leave it at that for now. The cables are coming along nicely, and the one on left open-ended is almost finished completely. I will definitely need to revisit the rails around the farm. It's not a good idea to make it a terminal, in case I need trains further up north. I'll just need to make a junction somewhere. Of course, the whole reason for all of this is to make it easier to move oil from the wells to the industrial area. So we will need track around these parts too. And we will need to run past the power plant so we can connect up the appropriate branches on our way to the border. Again, I'm using the tape measure tool to see how long I need to make the customs house's platform for a 150 meters long train. I just noticed that the 5th apartment block has been built. Time for the 6th one. And the rest of the footpaths around this place. I will make the same for the other side. No one will use it, since they have full access to the town on the other side of these blocks, but it will look better. If we did everything correctly, the 2 blocks at the end should be perfectly aligned. And indeed they are. I'll adjust it, so it will connect nicely to the other side, giving full access to the town for every apartment block. The same is true for this side. Connecting the two entrances will give a neat little footpath that we can use as a sort of cap to the whole internal park area. I was really lucky that I managed to squeeze in a decent looking connection, especially with the slope I had to work with. This junction may be a bit bigger than necessary. I might revisit it and make it smaller before we fully commit to it. I might even make it a bit more fancy, instead of using this plain old T-junction. We have two separate oil fields here. Instead of having separate stations for each, I'll try to have one in the middle, and pump the oil through some pipes so we can pick up the stuff from a central location. Of course we will need to take train lengths and some queuing into consideration, so the current length of this branch is definitely not long enough. Whoa, that's pretty ugly. Definitely not gonna keep that around. Okay, it will take a long time until we reach this part anyways. I'll revisit this in the next episode. Let's try to coax the farm connection through this road somehow. We can definitely make that curve a bit gentler, but later. We are only making a rough outline for the network right now. And the rail construction office was finished while I was away. And the power is back online in the town. Looks so much better without all the wires crisscrossing the place. It was a bit of a conundrum, trying to decide which way to connect up the border outpost to the rest of the network. I didn't want to make a crossing at the highway, that's a pretty busy piece of road. And going around the town to the south just didn't appeal to me. You'll see where I'm going with this soon. In the meantime, we can start upgrading all these footpaths. No point delaying it, they only slow down access for our citizens living at the outer edge. And to help with that, we can add this little extra connection, so people don't have to go all the way around to reach the school. I decided to go across the highway, but without actually making a level crossing. Me trying to use the terrain raising tool might give a hint as to what I'm thinking about. Unfortunately, the excavator at the construction office is occupied, so we'll have to wait a bit. Yes, I know I did just block the way of everyone living in these houses for a bit. They won't be happy, but we build these gravel footpaths pretty quickly these days, so they won't have to wait for too long. Just in case, I did disallow people to move into the new building. It will come in handy in a little bit. I tried to move people out of the middle one, but everything is already full up. But they won't be cut off very much longer. After 2 more tiny pieces of footpath are completed, we can move everyone into the newest building, and that will take care of the problem. I'll trim this cable back a little bit. It's right where I want to raise the ground for the overpass. There. The new building has access. We can move everyone stuck in the middle building to it, so everyone's happy. We only lost about 2 or 3% of overall happiness, so what little harm was done will be inconsequential in the long run. The last gravel shipment has arrived. After these 2 sections are done, we will concentrate on the rail overpass. And this housing complex is more or less done. We will cap it off with 2 more apartment blocks at the wider end, decorate the central area, and it will be complete. But right now, we are building a bridge. It's just a matter of choosing a place, and then raising the ground at both sides of the road until it's high enough for the overpass. Not nearly high enough yet. 1 more of the thicker contour lines should do the trick. This looks about right. Maybe a slight slope upwards, but it's workable. Now that we have the height figured out, we can select the leveling tool, start at one hill, quickly move to the other side of the road, and we can easily reach the exact same height. The curved bridge has its structural beams at the bottom, which gives it a much lower clearance, so we cannot build that one. But this one's trusses are on the top, so its lowest point is higher above the road. This won't be our last choice, but it's close enough to it. Now we just have to find the absolute lowest height we can build it at. Our biggest issue are the pillars at this point. Once we find the correct length, everything will fall into place. Just like that. Of course it needs to be electrified. This is perfect. Couldn't be happier. Okay, that bump is a bit much. Let's do something about it. We have the exact height and distance we need for the bridge. Let's mark it with the ruler so we know what point to use as our default. And do the same on the other side, of course. With first snow, I'll make a quick check around the place to make sure things are working as they should. Seeing the oil trucks queuing up at the storage tank made me decide to just let them fully unload. While they wait, they won't use any fuel, so might as well let them. I don't want to sell any of them just yet. I want to see if they'll keep queuing with all this snowfall. Now, let's continue with the bridge. The actual end points should be level now, so I'll just trim back the tracks a bit, so they'll make a nice curve as they approach the bridge. Well, isn't that just the bee's knees? I'm really happy with how it turned out. A bit of smoothing, and it's ready for construction. Speaking of construction, let's connect up the actual office for it. We will need to add a turnaround point, so our track builders can reach everything. I might place it somewhere else. This is just a temporary placeholder, to remind me that I will need it. Thanks to the roads, the station platform will be a bit longer than necessary for the farm warehouse. Well, it won't be a heavy traffic area anyways. Time to start moving the materials to the rail CO. At the very least, we are safe to build everything until just past the bridge. Certain parts will require a turnaround point to be built, but we are not concerned with all that right now. And I just noticed we can repay another 100,000 from our loans. We're back down to 400,000. I could feasibly just let it tick down. Well, I'm not overly worried about money at this point. Now this is a choice worth considering. The slower one will take longer, but it will drain our money slower as well. If we decided to invest in the EDK 300, it would be faster, but it would eat through steel faster too, so our money would suffer as a result. Maybe once we have domestic steel production, I'll consider buying the better track layer. Of course, we are going with an electrified rail network. And that requires a power connection, so let's take care of it now. I'll build it close to the power station, so we can supply our own power to it. Just like that. Here's where I remembered that I needed to build the new kindergarten and sports center. I was ready to call it an episode right here, but I really wanted to get those done too. Both of the new buildings are workshop assets, by the way. First, I will place the new gymnasium. Fits well in where the old clinic used to be. Now, the kindergarten is a bit more complicated. I will build the same building twice, back to back, leaving a bit of space in between for a bit of decorating. It is a higher capacity alternative, but the footprint is also slightly bigger. I never really liked the way the vanilla kindergarten looked. Sometimes I even disabled the complex education system only because of that. Most buildings have an aesthetic that work well together, but the kindergarten, I never really made peace with it. Now that they are placed, we have a bit of extra room in the middle. Since it's a place for small children, I downloaded some playground assets as well. They are in the monuments category, but they don't have any loyalty boosting effect as far as I can tell, so they are purely cosmetic. I will still build them manually though. I'll just have to place them one at a time, starting with the one in the back. When that's done, I'll remove its footpath connection and build the second one. Also, as I'm looking at those three lines branching off, I will definitely need to either spread them apart, or merge them into a single junction. They are just at the wrong distance from each other. Too close to make them into separate junctions, but too far apart to use them as a single entity. By the way, I only noticed that the gravel footpath behind that playground is inaccessible. I guess I don't really need it. I intend to fill in the middle with a gravel or an asphalt texture anyway, so it's not really necessary. And the first playground is finished. I'll remove the dirt footpath and build the second one. I raised the amount of workers who are allowed to walk into the construction sites from the street, but that drastically cut down the amount that were going to the bus station. The last thing we need right now is a lack of workers in the heating plant, so I quickly lowered it back down. While those are being built, I decided to at least place the plans for the last remaining housing blocks, even though they will not be built for a little while. I just need to line them up so they quote-unquote connect right in the middle of the housing complex. I make sure to pause the constructions and only build the footpaths connecting them to the rest of the city. Now, this last one is in an unfortunate position. So, instead of building a proper footpath at an awkward angle, I'll just use the ground texture tools and build a fake connection. And since these entrances have a bit of a gravel front on the other buildings, I'll do the same here. I think a statue in the middle, surrounded by a couple trees and bushes will look rather nice. And we came back right when the first kindergarten was finished. It requires more workers, but has a much bigger capacity for children. And we can finally get rid of the last vanilla childcare facility. The building itself isn't bad, but that long asphalt road sticking out like a sore thumb really makes it an ugly thing. It takes up way more space than it has any reason to. I've been really trying to decide which track layer to buy, and ultimately decided that I'll go with a cheaper one. It will take ages before we can take advantage of the rail network either way, but at least this way it won't drain our funds too quickly. Now, in this episode I did not buy any buses to move workers to it, but I will definitely need to disallow people to go from the bus stop to work there. It has way more worker slots than the other workplaces here, and it would siphon away the majority of them. In the next episode, I will have to make sure I only allow workers arriving at the bus stop to work anywhere, except the rail construction office, and have a dedicated commuter line for it. Anyways, we just reached a new milestone in our republic. The first railroad tracks are being laid down. I have a feeling this will take a while, but it will be worth it. This was when I realized that having people go from the bus stop to the new CO isn't exactly the best idea. Only a single person decided to work in the heating plant. And the gymnasium is finished. Our citizens now have multiple indoor options for their daily exercise. I'll also change the way this footpath is laid out. Instead of having a fairly sizable empty area next to the gym, I'll run the walkway through it and fill the rest with some greenery in the spring. There we go. The two kindergartens look like a single facility, only with separate wings and a place for the children to play in the middle. And the number of unemployed people due to the lack of childcare started to go down. Mission accomplished. I think this is as good a place as any to end this episode. Of course, the biggest thing we did this time around was taking the first step towards building the railroad network. I have a feeling it will take quite a while before we can take advantage of it fully, but we got to start somewhere. We also managed to make good progress on the housing complex at the southwestern edge of town, not to mention the new childcare and sports facilities in the center. I don't really know what we can do to keep busy in the next episode. Watching the track layer go back and forth wouldn't be very interesting to watch, so I'll think of something. There are a couple minor tweaks I'll need to do, but we need something substantial. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you did, dropping a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. Until then, see you later.